Edgar Cayce, On Channeling Your Higher Self. By Henry Reed. Table of Contents. 1. What is channeling? 2. Listen to your intuition, the channel of your guardian angel. 3. Dreams, the nightly channel of the higher self. 4. The creative channel of the mind, what we think we become. 5. Meditation, channel of the spirit. 6. Inspirational writing. 7. Artistic channels of creativity. 8. The visionary channel of your imagination. 9. Who's there? Identifying the spirit who speaks. 10. Evaluating channeled guidance. 11. Using hypnosis to become a trance channel. 12. The channel of cooperation in a group. 13. Being a channel of healing forces. 14. Being yourself, the ultimate form of channeling. Chapter 1. What is channeling? Today's affirmation: every day my inner voice becomes louder and clearer. Learning that you, too, are a channel of spirit can be a means of spiritual awakening. The highest psychic realization, Cayce declared, is that God talks directly to human beings. Edgar Cayce. What is channeling? In its most general sense, it's a means of transmission. The channel receives and passes along information. Inspiration and creativity are aspects of channeling. Being able to elevate others to higher states of consciousness and bring out the best in people. Edgar Cayce's work is known as classic channeled metaphysical literature. We are all channels of divine energy. It is transmitting something which is beyond one's personal self. A channel may be asleep, in a meditation, in a trance, or awake while channeling. There are as many ways to channel as there are individuals that channel. A channeler brings forth information that's not part of the channeler's own learning or experience. Every day, in countless ways, you and I are channels of spirit, of ideas, and of resources that come from beyond our conscious personalities. Our channeling abilities have profound impact on our own lives and the lives of those around us. We can become aware of this fact. We can realize that we're channelers and can consider which types of channeling we wish to perfect and use. Rather than channeling without awareness of what we're doing, we can take a more active, creative role in our channeling. By doing so, we assume our birthright, our mission in life, to become a channel of blessings to others by the way we willingly choose to channel our energies. Chapter 2. Listen to your intuition, the channel of your guardian angel. Today's affirmation: I am directly connected to infinite intelligence. Intuition is the highest form of psychic ability. Edgar Cayce. Intuition as a channel of guidance. Intuition is information that comes to you from universal intelligence or God, and in this respect it is referred to as a channel. It guides you on your path to your highest good. The psychic side of intuition. Intuition never comes randomly. There is always a purpose, a reason. Intuition is more than psychic ability. It draws a conclusion and directs your actions like a faithful guide dog who knows you and knows what's best for you. Many times, intuition guides our actions without our knowing it. All knowledge is within. Cayce defined intuition as knowing from within. Two keystones of Cayce's teachings. 1. Knowing that all knowledge comes from within. 2. Learning to look within Zen archery. Eugene Herrigel traveled to Japan to learn about Zen. Finally, Master Kenzo Awa, the revered archer, agreed to work with him. Eugene spent countless hours learning how to draw the long and very stiff Japanese bow. He shot at no target. He learned the target was an inward one, a state of mind. Finally, during the 5th year, the master brought out a target and demonstrated shooting. The master could hit the target every time without hardly looking. He joked that his master had learned to shoot in his sleep. Later that evening at the master's studio, he revealed an amazing pitch blackness. The master shot at a target twice and hit it both times dead center. The master explained that we believe we need our eyes to see because we believe the world is out there beyond us. If you separate yourself from the target, you then have to learn the trick of how to hit it with the arrow. The art is to become one with the target, allowing the arrow to return to its natural home. An archer who aims the arrow at the target is merely a trick shooter. The archer who becomes the target is on the path to realizing Zen's great secret. The great secret to developing intuition is to follow the path because it leads to our true nature, one with God, not because we want to become psychic. Intention is everything. The secret of unitary oneness. We are all one. All of creation is one. There is one spirit, or energy, that unites all of creation. It connects all human beings with one another, and with everything else in creation. Although we may appear to one another as separate, disconnected beings, we are each extensions of the Creator's Spirit. What happens to one of us touches us all. There is a unified psychic ecology among all events in creation. God created human souls out of the Creator's own being. Each soul is a projection of God, in the same way our thoughts and images are projections of our mind. Although each soul has its individuality, all souls are one spirit. Each soul is like a miniature universe, like a drop of water in the ocean. Each person has intimate knowledge of all of creation. Modern science states that creation is holonomic. When you aim a laser beam at a holographic plate, the beam bounces off the plate and projects a three-dimensional picture in space. This project looks solid and as real as the actual plate. Being psychic is an inherent, natural attribute of the soul. Intuition draws upon this universal knowledge that is psychically available to the soul. The superconscious mind. There is only one mind. This single, living reality is a universal mind that we all have in common. Mind is like the air we share. Although we each have our separate lungs to touch the air, there is only one air. Conscious mind. The lowest form of the mind. Focuses on physical world. Each of us appears distinctly separate from one another. Channel of sensory information. Subconscious mind. All subconscious minds, of both the living and the dead, are in contact with one another. Remembers everything from all lifetimes, stored in the Akashic Records located in the subconscious mind. Channel of telepathic information, gets knowledge from other people's thoughts and experiences. Superconscious mind. Channel of clairvoyance. Gets information directly from the oneness of life. Taps into the knowledge from universal mind. Intuition is a super channel, taking advantage of info coming through all the other channels. Developing intuition. 7 major principles. 1. As you become consciously one with life, you become more consciously intuitive. 2. Empathy and love are the highest forms of attunement for intuition. 3. A need to know something stimulates intuition. 4. Intuitive knowledge comes from within. 5. Intuition requires an acceptance of what spontaneously comes from within. Our first thought, feeling, or image. 6. Genuine intuitions are consistent with our highest values or ideals. 7. Honor your intuition by acting on them or affirming them. Lightning analogy. Imagine that your intuition is like a lightning rod. The lightning up in the sky is the infinite intelligence, the energy that seeks expression when it's needed. You want to bring the lightning down from the sky. If you don't provide a ground, a connection with the earth, the lightning won't come down your channel. Being prepared to put intuitions into service provides the necessary grounding. Spend time in nature. This is the best way to cultivate intuition, by spending time in nature. It's the perfect way to practice oneness with life. A little bird told me birds are a common symbol of telepathic and intuitive messages. Intuition is empathy. Cayce's concept of oneness. Harmony, resonance, and communion. Attunement. When we attune to something, we become one with it or in alignment with it. Nature meditation. Choose something in nature to meditate on. It could be a flower like a rose, a tree, or maybe the sounds of nature, or even a bird or squirrel sitting quietly. Empathically merge with this energy and become one with it. For example, if you chose a rose, become a rose yourself. Begin to feel as the rose feels. From within yourself, imagery will arise that expresses your affinity with the rose. Thus you will come to know the rose intuitively. Hearing voices. Intuitions often come as feelings. Sometimes they come as voices. The Natural Depth of Man, by Wilson Van Dusen. In his book, Wilson shared his experiences with mentally ill patients who heard voices. He learned that there are good voices and there are bad voices. The patients reported hearing different voices, voices that spoke with different tones and spoke different things. There were voices that were highly critical and said terrible things. He coached the person to speak back to those voices, to tell them to stop. They also heard voices that spoke kind words and had encouraging things to say. He helped the person to learn how to listen to those voices. These inner helpers could offer advice about the person's recovery. As mental health returned, the bad voices went away, but the good voices remained as helpers and guides. Anchor your channeling. Anchor your channeling by being clear about your purpose for receiving information. By having some purpose focused on serving a need, we direct the active part of our channel in a constructive manner. The cross-current of our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is like a strong cross-current we have to swim through as we reach upward to the superconscious mind to access intuition. The subconscious mind may be filled with many different voices, good and bad. Our superconscious mind is filled with pure love, light, and harmony. Our purpose helps us attune to the highest source of guidance. Learning to listen to the still, small voice. Practice exercise. Begin with a difficult decision you have to make. Think through the alternatives, consider your values and purposes, and make your best decision. Make a tentative commitment to follow through on that decision. Making that commitment is necessary to arouse your entire being in the contemplation of that decision. Hypothetical thoughts don't excite the intuitive faculty, for it's of a more practical bent. Next, sit down and get as quiet as you can within yourself. This step is the attunement. Focus on the feelings evoked by your highest values and your ideals. When you are in the frame of mind that is resonating with your ideals, ask yourself if your decision is a good one. There will be a response to that question within you, a yes or no. That response is the voice of intuition. You may experience it as a voice, a feeling, or a thought. An answer will be there. It's usually the very first thing that comes to mind. Learning to trust intuition. Trust, accepting the first thing that comes to mind, is one of the hardest aspects of learning intuition. It involves trust. Tip: accept your first response and save your evaluation, analysis, and criticism for later. Remember, intuition is like a loving friend. It's there to help and guide you toward your highest good. The guardian angel. Intuition guides and guards us, inspires us, brings experiences of spiritual meaning. Sometimes it speaks, like an inner voice. Sometimes it brings feelings, like joy or dread. It nudges us. It guides us without our awareness. Its promptings may be subtle or loud. It is one face of the higher self. Intuition performs all the services we might expect of a guardian angel. In fact, within each of us is a guardian angel. Where's my guardian angel? Inside of you. Yep. Cayce says that our guardian angel resides where our portion of the superconscious mind becomes the one, universal mind. It is that part of us that hasn't forgotten our oneness with God and knows of no separation from God. The guardian angel thus has no free will of its own, but serves only the will of God. The actions of our intuition aren't the response of our free will. They are involuntary, spontaneous responses of our guardian angel, drawing us ever closer to the experience of oneness. Chapter 3: Dreams, the Nightly Channel of the Higher Self. Today's affirmation: I will remember my dreams in the morning and any helpful messages they may hold. As we fall asleep, our intuition, our sixth sense, not only remains awake but also becomes more expansive. There is no awareness of a separate self. There is simply being, deep, silent sleep, pure intuition, pure psychic oneness. Dreams as a channel of psychic experience. A study of 9,300 documented cases of psychic experiences showed that 57% of these occurred in dreams. Dreams are a channel of which we obtain important information about the future. 8% of the population, over 2 million Americans, have had a dream that foretold, in explicit detail, of an event that later happened. Cayce said that anything of importance that would ever happen to us we would first preview in a dream. The nightly channel of the higher self. Dreams are perhaps the most profound channels of the higher self. 6 ways dreams function as a channel. 1. They are themselves real experiences in the spiritual dimension. 2. They provide readings on our current life. 3. They provide us with a way to contact God. 4. They are inspirational, teaching us lessons. 5. They are creative, presenting solutions to problems. 6. They are psychic, seeing into the future. Dreams, the healthcare channel. Dreams are also a channel of preventive health care and healing. While we sleep, our inner physician is always in attendance. Dreams may warn about developing illness, giving advice about treating health issues, and even providing direct healing. There is evidence that during the dream state the body is receptive to new programming. The synthesis of new DNA molecules while dreaming could spark a reversal in a disease process. Book: The Inner Eye. Your dreams can make you psychic. Joan Windsor. Dreams as a channel of many mysteries. Our Dreaming Mind, History and Psychology by Bob Van de Castle, Encyclopedia of Documented Cases of Wondrous Dreams that have shaped the course of history. Muhammad had his first experience of religious calling in a dream. The Bible is full of examples of God talking to people in their dreams. Creative inspirations occur in dreams. Musicians had dreamed music, artists dreamed art, authors dreamed stories, etc. Dreams and Dreaming by Edgar Cayce. Hundreds of dreams by ordinary people interpreted by Cayce. Dreams come from our subconscious mind expressing our fears and wishes. Dreams also come from our superconscious mind, the work of our higher self. Meeting the higher self. Author shares that he was in the early stages of alcoholism when he had a dream about a drunkard in a sacred forest sanctuary that he was judging as he conversed with the caretaker. It turned out that the caretaker was the author's higher self and the drunkard was actually himself. The lesson was to have more compassion for himself. An encounter with the higher self leads the dreamer through surprising turns into a deeper understanding of the meaning of one's problem. Who is the higher self? The higher self appears in many guises. It understands that there is a purpose in all things. It views all experiences as opportunities for growth and learning. The more you work with your dreams, the more you will realize there is a larger intelligence at work directing your life. Analogy: it's as if you are the driver of the car, but not its owner. At any time, however, you may hear a voice behind you declare, "Turn right here, Henry!" Such moments remind you that you are really only the chauffeur. Although you have to steer and brake the car, the true master of the vehicle is sitting in the back seat. Your higher self. Cayce explains that the higher self is the seeing eye of the soul's awareness of itself. The soul is our true identity. Ego has access to conscious mind. Higher self has access to subconscious and superconscious mind. Whether or not the higher self appears in your dreams, it is at work in many of them. We have an ego physical form, spirit, soul, and higher self. These are each separate entities, yet one energy. Our spirit is attached to our ego, and when we die our physical form dissolves, but our spirit lives on in whatever egoic form we attained while on earth. Our soul is connected to our spirit. Our soul is more advanced, purer light, and holds memories of all of our lifetimes and evolves with every lifetime we experience. Our higher self is connected to our soul. It is our purest form. When we stop incarnating, our soul dissolves back into the oneness, and we are left with the higher self, which is always our connection to God, to Source, to universal intelligence, to the oneness, the sea of awareness. Cayce explanation of the dream. What is a dream? As we fall asleep, our intuition, our sixth sense, not only remains awake but also becomes more expansive. Our entire body, our whole being, begins to function as an ear that listens intuitively. We merge with creation and resonate with all that we hear. There is no awareness of a separate self. There is simply being, deep, silent sleep, pure intuition, pure psychic oneness. If you dissolve into the universe during sleep, how do you come back in the morning as yourself? Fortunately, it's in the deep sleep that we are most closely attuned with our guardian angel consciousness. It guards us while we are asleep, protecting the pattern of our individuality. It beams us back to ourselves intact. Our soul evaluates our life during sleep. Our soul examines our life during our sleep and using its superconscious perspective to determine if we are on course or not. The experience the soul has while we are all asleep is what we remember as a dream. Whether or not our dreams reflect our soul's experience depends upon the level of our personal development. Anything we wish to know or experience can be safely obtained in our dreams. Dream incubation, opening the channel. The author, Henry Reed, does a dream study in which he sets up a dream tent, as outlined in his book Getting Help from Your Dreams. Cayce points out that we can actively seek helpful dreams. The intention to apply what you already know is the seed of further inspiration. Dreams grow from what is on your mind while falling asleep, so be careful what you are thinking about as you drift off to sleep. Dreams help us become ourselves and create our own lives. Suggestion: actively seek helpful dreams by focusing on a question or solution to your problem before you fall asleep. Ask that you be shown through your dream how to solve the problem or what your next step to attaining success is. When you wake up, check in with yourself before you move your body. Remember, every time your body moves you forget more and more of your dream. Preparing to channel a dream of guidance. Phrase focusing. Living Your Dreams by Gail Delaney. Write out your feelings about your question to get all your thoughts out on paper. Then reduce your question to a single phrase that expresses the heart of the matter. Repeat this phrase to yourself as you fall asleep. The Dream Quest Workbook by Henry Reed. Write a letter to your dreams asking for their advice. In your letter, outline what you already know about the problem and what you are going to do about it. Invite your dreams to show you a better way. Put the letter under your pillow when you go to bed at night. As you fall asleep, imagine yourself following through on your own plan. A study done at an ARE conference showed that 2 out of 5 people who remembered a dream after using the pillow technique found the answer in the dream to be just as helpful as a psychic reading. Learning to recall dreams, an exercise in channeling. Learning to recall your dreams can be a good exercise in your own channeling abilities. 1. Before you fall asleep at night, repeat to yourself, "I will remember my dreams in the morning and any helpful messages they may hold." 2. Lie still in bed when you wake up. 3. You may have no distinct images, that's okay, be patient. 4. Become aware of subtle feelings. 5. Allow the feelings, colors, or shapes time to blossom into memories or images. 6. The information is there in how you are feeling. 7. Simply let it flow forth. 8. Trust. 9. Keep a journal by your bed and write down any images or thoughts that come to mind. Don't worry about remembering all the details. Pick out one thing that stands out in your mind. Maybe it's a color or an object, and as you move through your day, ask the question, what relevance does this have in my life? How can this help me? Channeling dreams into action. In the application comes the awareness. Practice. 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 The best book on dreams is the one you write yourself. When people meditated and improved their dream, recall the following day. When people applied a dream insight one day, the next morning their dream was clearer and easier to understand. Dreams are experiences of our higher self, creations of our soul. Cayce's simple secrets to learning to interpret your dreams. 1. Have a purpose for recalling your dream and write it down. 2. When you recall a dream, write it down. 3. Find something in the dream, anything, that you think could be a clue. 4. Think of a way to test the validity of the clue or your understanding of it by some practical application. Find or make up an insight from the dream. 5. Do something constructive about it. X. Write down the results of your experiment and compare them with your own standards. If you do this, Cayce assures that you will have a follow-up dream to further clarify or deny your conclusions. Practice exercise. 1. Record your dream. Write down whatever comes to mind. 2. Find something in your dream that you can make come true that day. If you saw the color red, wear something red that day. 3. Bringing something of our inner experience into our outer lives completes a circuit of energy. 4. Doing this is part of learning to channel. Questions and exercises. 1. Who is the higher self? What resonates for you? 2. Actively seek helpful dreams exercise. Focus on a question or solution to your problem before you fall asleep. Ask that you be shown through your dream how to solve the problem or what your next step to attaining success is. When you wake up, check in with yourself before you move your body. Remember, every time your body moves, you forget more and more of your dream. 3. When you wake up, pick out one thing that stands out in your mind from your dream. Maybe it's a color or an object. Don't worry about remembering all the details. And as you move through your day, ask the question, what relevance does this have in my life? How can this help me? Chapter 4. The Creative Channel of the Mind. What we think, we become. Today's affirmation: I create my own reality. If I don't like what I've created, I can simply create again. We live our lives as channels of energy. Energy isn't ours to own because it belongs to life itself, but it's ours to use, to channel. What we think, we become. Restlessness. The experience of energy you don't know how to channel. Psychology suggests that the energy arises from a desire, but one we can't quite acknowledge. When we mull over our options for action, eventually one thought begins to take precedence. Soon we move into action. Thus we've found a way to channel our energy. 3 components to channeling our human being. 1. Input side, given energy which comes from universal life force. 2. Output side, turn the energy into action or experiences. 3. In the middle, psychology of our mind, our ideas about how to spend our energy. The formula of creation, going through channels. How energy is channeled determines its effect. It's the fundamental process of creation. It originates from the Creator. It's how the Creator, God, created all that exists. We use the same energy field that God does. God patterned this one energy, universal life force. A multitude of patterns arose out of the mind of God and channeled that one energy into the forms of nature. The basic process of channeling: spirit is the life. Mind is the builder. Physical is the result. Patterning is like a film projector. Light bulb in the projector is the source of energy. It shines a neutral light like spirit. Place film in the projector and the patterns on the film pattern the neutral light, shaping and coloring it. The film is like the mind, a source of patterns. Result equals pictures on the screen. The physical manifestation, what we experience, is the result of the patterning of light, which comes from our thoughts. Ideas, channel of material reality. As a man thinketh, so is he. Proverbs 27:3. Patterns we hold in our mind channel the life energy into physical expression. Ideas have their effect through their patterns. Ideas exist in another dimension, the fourth dimension. Ideas exist outside of time and space. Ideas are real in themselves and become real in the physical world. Ideas create our physical world. Personal expectations and attitudes affect how we experience events. How do ideas create our physical world? As we tune into an idea, it begins to shape our experience. Every moment of our lives we're acting as channels of energy shaping events through the ideas we hold. Ideals: in what spirit will you channel? What ideas will you channel into reality? Because the thoughts we have are so influential in our lives, we need to consider carefully which thoughts we give our attention to. It's a matter of values. It's important to establish our concept of ideals. What is your highest value? What is the ideal by which you choose to steer your life? Ideals are models of perfection. The perfect 10, exists only as an idealized spirit form in the superconscious region of the mind. We will never find perfectly realized in physical form. Asking yourself, what is my highest value or ideal, is an exercise in raising your consciousness to the superconscious mind. Ideal is meant to stimulate emulation and guide our actions, but not to hold out hope of perfect success. Ideals are the parents of ideas. Ideals are unachievable. If you can achieve it, it is an idea. Ideals continually motivate and inspire us. Ideas die once achieved. Values based on an ideal keep us going. Ideals examples: love, harmony, peace, wealth, happiness. Learning to express your ideal is one way to channel your higher self. The ideal of the Christ consciousness. The ideal choice of ideal is Christ consciousness. We will use the abbreviation CC. What makes Jesus special is his total awareness of his divinity within, his willingness to accept it, and to live it. To sin is to miss the mark. When we turn our backs on our awareness of oneness and take our physical being, our existence in the material world, as the prime reality, we miss the mark. Cayce defines sin as self, meaning to focus on our separateness rather than on our oneness. Antidote to separateness is to focus on oneness. Antidote to feeling lonely is to forget yourself and reach out to someone else in love. This is the spirit of Christ consciousness. CC is an ideal that can provide continuous inspiration for a lifetime. If you find the term CC objectionable, search within yourself for your own sense of your ideal. What's important is that you look within and become conscious of what is there, that your own intuition guide you to the ideal that you would choose to govern the spirit by which you live. Channeling the ideals of the higher self. Cayce tells us in order to channel your higher self you need to attune to an ideal, and then to set oneself aside so that the ideal may express itself. Ideals are the currency of the higher self. Ideals you set for yourself determine the qualities of the higher self that you will experience. I die daily so that Christ may live in me. Paul. Set the ideal, then be spontaneous. Once your ideal is set, you can trust in the flow. You begin channeling the ideal of your higher self. Channeling sexual energy. Sexual energy is the strongest physical force within the body. No sex act or sexual relation is necessarily bad in and of itself. Rather, it's the purpose or the desire that the sexual event is expressing that determines its value. Sexual energy is best served when used as a guide to an awareness of God and the divinity of another person. When used for your own self-gratification, it may lead to an unhealthy attachment. Same is true for channeling. If channeling is used for self-achievement or self-gratification, it likely will lead to confusion. If channeling is used to help oneself or someone else grow and expand, it will more likely be of value. For parents only, channeling new life. The conceiving of a child begins when a man and woman join forces to make a life together. What the parents thinks about, what's on their minds, their ideals, what's in their hearts is of essential importance in what soul they will attract to incarnate in the physical embryo. We have a great influence on shaping what enters through the combined parental channel. The law governing parental channeling and spirit entity channeling is like attracts like. What the parents love, the mental and spiritual environment they create, and their degree of consciousness of purpose, will attract a like-minded soul. The heavenly home. Home is the model, and our closest experience on earth, of the heavenly home. Making one's home like heaven on earth is a rewarding experience in channeling. What is an ideal home? It is a home with an ideal. Companionship. A desire for companionship was God's motivation for creating souls, and companionship is an essential quality in the ideal home environment. It's easy to take our companions for granted, here and beyond. To remind ourselves of the heavenly delight of home companionship is to remember some of our most precious moments of channeling, our simple, subtle pleasures of making room for someone else to share our life. Love, a channel of miracles. Love. Love, the giving out of that within self. Love motivates every soul. Love is a law unto itself. Love is a channel of miracles because it can transcend the law of cause and effect. Love can break the rules. Forgiveness. Each of us, in countless ways, find ourselves violated in some manner by someone else's inexcusable action. Their insensitive or hurtful act causes us to become angry. There's cause and effect, and it may continue, like a row of falling dominoes, toward an inevitable conclusion. By an act of forgiveness, however, by accepting what happened and forgiving the person, you can break the chain. Forgiveness is one of God's creative powers to perform miracles. In conclusion, every day, every moment of our lives, we give ourselves toward one goal or another. With every heartbeat, we channel love. And what our heart dwells upon, what our minds think about, we become or experience in our lives. We continually channel our energy, our love, our ideas, our ideals, our actions into creating life as we would have it. It's the most everyday, ordinary and miraculous channeling we do. Chapter 5, Meditation Channel of Spirit. Today's affirmation: by quieting my mind, I allow answers to arise from within. Meditation is listening to the divine within. Edgar Cayce, Channel of Spirit. Two well-known channelers credit meditation as the womb that spontaneously gave birth to their channeling practice. To intentionally make contact with the higher dimensions, begin meditating. Meditation on the breath, a channel of inspiration. How to meditate. Use your breath, a word or image as a focus point. Concentrate on your focus, and whenever your mind strays, return to your focus. Begin by simply breathing and study your breath for a moment. As you become aware of your inhale and exhale, allow the exhale to bring you into relaxation. Allow your breath to just happen, don't try to control it. It breathes me. Watching the breath is an ancient Zen Buddhist technique to meditate and an important channel of inspiration. You are learning to allow the breath of life, the spirit, to flow through you. Become a channel of awareness. Become aware of the silent witness. The little eye is focused on thoughts and things, whereas the silent eye is focused on witnessing. The silent witness is the first level of consciousness of the higher self. Be still and know that I am God. How to meditate. A fuller understanding of I am. Use your breath, a word or image as a focus point. Concentrate on your focus, and whenever your mind strays, return to your focus. Place your intention to stay focused in gentle opposition with your mind's natural tendency to wander. These two forces meet and gradually cancel each other out. This leaves the presence of I am awareness to reveal itself in the background. This I am awareness leads to a far greater awareness. The higher consciousness within is not above you. God isn't above us but within us. Raise your consciousness within self, and then higher self or God meets you there. As you go within, become aware of the vibrations, higher, lower, light, dense, subtle, coarse. Follow the path of calmness in search of higher vibrations. Search for the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's a particularly fine vibration. Immediately there's a feeling of moving higher within, seeking answers from within. Cayce assures us we can contact an awareness that knows answers to the questions that confront us. All knowledge is within. Meditation is a very portable guide that travels within you everywhere you go, asking your higher self for guidance. If you have a question or decision, commit to an answer on paper or saying it aloud. This begins the channeling process. Next, enter into meditation and focus on your ideal, maybe it's love, for 20 minutes or so. When you come out of meditation, ask your question or state your decision and become aware of any insights that arise. Meditation on an ideal. A lot more goes on in meditation than what you might expect. It's a time where other dimensions, other realities, other vibrations become an influence on the person. Research has proven that meditation improves psychic sensitivities. Other minds, including those of the dead, as well as other forms of spirit energy, have easier access to our mind. While meditating, it's important to attune yourself to the highest vibrations. Imagine surrounding yourself with love and light. This creates a boundary that separates and protects us from anything that's not in accordance with our intentions. Attuning to an ideal. Whatever you focus on in meditation, it's like tuning your mind to that particular channel. You receive the energies of that wavelength in a pure, concentrated form. When we meditate on an ideal, the pattern of energy contained in that ideal actually affects us. We become a channel for spiritual energy to influence our being. Meditation and the Book of Revelation. Cayce said that the Lord's Prayer, as taught by Jesus, is actually as formula for patterning the opening of the psychic centers. Cayce believed that when Apostle John's centers opened in the pattern, the endocrine glands functioned in harmony to allow God's consciousness to fully inhabit John's body and be present in his awareness. The Book of Revelation describes a second coming of Christ. It's the birth of the Christ consciousness in John. In each of us. God's incarnation in John's body, as was the case with Jesus, becomes a totally conscious experience. The body is the temple. Cayce repeatedly reminds us the body is the temple. It's where we meet with God. Cayce does not propose us to become health freaks. He tells us it's not what we put into our bodies that defile us, but what comes out of our body by way of thoughts, speech, and actions. It's not the substance itself that causes harm, but what we digest of what we eat. This principle is similar to the dream principle. It's not what we learn that changes us, it's what we apply of what we learn. Cayce also recommends the use of scent, chanting, music, and breathing exercises before meditating. They are aids that help us invoke what is within us. Meditation as channeling. In meditation, we channel the life energy, the creative forces themselves, as they quicken our awareness of our higher self. Meditation is a process of channeling God's energy through us in a pattern that's most in tune with our consciousness of that higher self. Each time we turn within and open ourselves to the channel of higher consciousness, we take another step forward in being able to express that awareness in our lives. Questions and exercises. 1. Focus on your breath for 10 minutes. 2. Focus on a word or image for 10 minutes. Chapter 6. Inspirational Writing. Today's affirmation: I am healed by the divine love of Universal Spirit. Cayce reminds us of the biblical statements concerning the creative power of God's words. First there was the Word. Inspirational Writing. A Course in Miracles by Helen Schuckman was channeled completely through inspirational writing. Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach is another example. It's not uncommon to hear authors talk about how they ride creative impulses in their writing. Channeled writing might feel like ghost writing. Being a constructive channel. 1. Attune yourself to an ideal like love or peace for about 5 to 10 minutes or more. 2. Allow your whole being, mind and body, to resonate with the spiritual energy of the ideal. 3. Then allow your thoughts to flow directly onto paper. 4. Your writing will reflect and express that spirit or ideal. 5. Here we have inspired, constructive writing, a channel of the higher self. Dissociation and automatisms, a channel of the subconscious mind. The process of getting up and getting dressed is mildly dissociated from our conscious mind. All the little details of our actions occur as automatisms, reflex actions directed by the subconscious mind. Cayce taught that all subconscious minds are in contact with one another. The subconscious mind isn't only a channel of information about your unconscious feelings, it's also a channel of telepathy. Automatisms can express your subconscious feelings and more. They can also express subliminally perceived telepathic information from the living and the dead. Automatic writing versus inspirational writing. Handwriting is another source of automatism. We do it automatically, without thinking. Many famous writers have used automatic writing as a means to channel information. Ruth Montgomery in her autobiography. Cayce discourages the use of Ouija boards as it is a dissociated automatism. Brad Stoker. Ouija, the most dangerous game. Writing automatically with the subconscious mind as a source of the material results primarily simply in the production of channeled material. What comes through may affect the person, but there's no growth in the process itself. It's more like learning a new trick. Inspirational writing comes from the superconscious mind, which is attuned to your higher self. It promotes growth in consciousness. Meditating on an ideal before inspirational writing allows the ideal to serve as both a magnet and a filter for what will pass through the channel. Experiment with inspirational writing. Practice. One way to get started is to simply begin writing out your ideal. Perhaps you begin with a single word or phrase. Maybe you'll find yourself simply writing that again and again. Whatever you write, it doesn't matter. Example, maybe my ideal is to be the best I can be. So I keep writing that over and over again. I am aware of what I am writing, but I don't judge it. I don't do anything to interfere with what my hand might feel inclined to write. And then I find the phrase begins evolving and changing. I can be my best, the best in me can come through me, etc. I feel I am starting to warm up and begin trusting more in the process. Tips. Let go of any demands on yourself for performance. Be playful. Let go of the need to write something of importance. Allow yourself to flow. Don't take it too seriously. Forget about whether or not you're doing it right. Forget about grammar and punctuation. Most people hesitate before they write, waiting for inspiration, evaluating, censoring or filtering your thoughts before you write will keep you from writing in an inspirational flow. Write anything and nothing in particular, just play with the words. It's a good way to get started. It's easier to receive ideas while writing than by just sitting waiting for the ideas to arrive. Starting the flow is the hardest part. The first words are the hardest to get out. After that, you'll find a rhythm and flow that's right for you. Focus on your feeling of attunement to your ideal and let it express itself in your writing. Cayce recommends not reading your writing for 30 days, but keep writing. The inspired word and creativity. When the emphasis is on the process of tuning into your feelings, not on being inspired with holiness or wisdom, the pleasure of inspirational writing is available to all of us. Words bring our awareness into the consciousness of being. Playfulness adds another link between inspirational writing and creativity. The more we can accept ourselves as a channel in the awake state, the more we can realize that we need only be ourselves, who we really are, to channel our higher self. Learn from your breathing. Meditation on the breath can become a basis for learning inspirational writing. A willingness to trust in inspirational writing without first knowing what you will write requires a meditative frame of mind. Inspirational writing is a way to channel higher consciousness, but automatic writing is trick shooting. I personally believe it's all about intention and a little to do with semantics. I see what Cayce is saying here, but believe within the context of love and light the same result can be achieved whether we call it automatic writing or inspirational. 3 modes of breathing. 1. Controlled, we can choose how to breathe, controlling the length and fullness. 2. Automatic, when we don't pay attention to our breath, it happens automatically, by itself. We have voluntarily suspended our interference with the breath momentarily, yet we could assume control at any time. 3. Inspired, we are consciously allowing our breathing to express itself naturally while we watch. By becoming calm and relaxed, by trusting our breath, we allow ourselves to be inspired. 3 modes of writing. 1. Controlled, much of our writing happens this way. We decide what to write and how to write it. 2. Automatic, writing without awareness of the act. The handwriting happens by itself, controlled by the subconscious mind. 3. Inspired, maintaining an awareness of what we are writing. We allow the writing to proceed on its own, to just happen. We don't decide upon thoughts to record, we just allow them to express themselves, watching our thoughts reveal themselves as we write. Answers from the higher self. A genuine need is the greatest stimulant for the flow. Meditation shapes the flow. A special value of inspirational writing is that we can use a form of role-playing to get answers from our higher self. Ron Carey's approach to channeling. 1. Imagine what it would be like to be God. 2. Pose a question to yourself. 3. Imagine God hearing that question. 4. Allow yourself to answer the question as God might. Dream incubation as a way to channel. 1. Imagine some person as the personification of your highest ideal, real or imagined. 2. For your meditative attunement, allow yourself to imagine what it feels like to be this person. 3. Write down those feelings. 4. Now pose a question to that person. 5. Use inspirational writing to receive an answer from that person. 6. Ask for clarification if needed. Wrestle with the angel and it will bless you. Questions and exercises. 1. Share with the group any experiences you've had with automatic or inspirational writing. 2. How do you feel about Cayce's caution against automatic writing and his recommendation to use the steps outlined for inspirational writing instead? 3. Do the practice exercise under the subheading, Learn from your breathing. The steps are outlined there to practice inspirational writing. I like to meditate first, and then when I come out I have a journal handy and write down a question. Then I hold that question with my ideal of love for a few moments, and then begin writing. Remember, inspirational writing works best when you have a purpose. Chapter 7. Artistic Channels of Creativity. Today's affirmation: I trust my higher being to lead me along the right path. When the real music comes to me, the music of the spheres, the music that surpasses understanding, that has nothing to do with me because I'm just the channel. The only joy for me is for it to be given to me and transcribe it. Like a medium. Those moments are what I live for. John Lennon. Artistic Channels of Creativity. Cayce indicates that it is the arts that provide the channeling opportunities for the greatest expression of spiritual truths. Our inherent creativity is thus both a powerful and fun way to explore and develop our ability in channeling our higher self. The spirit of creativity in the arts. All artists give credit to flashes of insight, the spontaneous flow of the imagination, when they are channels of creativity. We already are channels of creative energy. The challenge seems to be for us to accept that gift and develop its expression. Art is the way we can manifest our spirit in the material world. George Winston. The Temple Beautiful. The Temple Beautiful were in Egypt, 10,500 BC. The purpose of these temples was to either purify people of disease or initiate them into the mysteries by raising their consciousness through the arts. The arts were actively employed as a holistic mode of education and transformation. Of all sensory effects, odor has the most powerful influence on the body. Through chanting and dancing with the proper music, one's conception of one's body in the material world can change to the point that one becomes aware that everything consists of vibration. In this manner, a person can learn how the energy is the basic reality, and how to pattern it toward a desired manifestation. There is no more powerful method for revealing spiritual truths than the arts. Janet Lapp, a psychologist from Say State University, has verified that listening to music can alleviate migraine headaches. Gary Schwartz, a psychologist from Yale University, has verified that the aroma of spiced apples can lower blood pressure, and the aroma of peaches can reduce pain. Clearly, art can affect consciousness. It can inspire us, evoke emotions, or create higher emotions. Ideals, art, and creativity. There is a close association in folklore and research that closely links genius with madness. The tension between profound creativity and madness provides another lesson in channeling. Cayce indicates that although the arts are the greatest channel for the realization of spiritual truths, he also warns that no other channel can unleash such destructive influences. Opening the channel when the adrenals are overstimulated, as in fear and anger, is much more hazardous than overstimulated sex center. Such stimulation is much more provocative of mental disturbances and the anguish of obsessive, compulsive states of mind than sexual stimulation. David McClellan studied the effect of two movies on people. 1. Nazi concentration camps which weaken viewers' immune systems, leaving them more vulnerable to disease, and 2. Mother Teresa's charitable works which strengthen their immunity to disease. Ideals expressed in movies affect our bodies in subtle but profound ways. When opening ourselves to the channel of creative influences, ideals also serve as a safety anchor. Make sure you anchor yourself in love or another ideal, as always, when channeling your higher self. A spiritual appreciation for art. We can use the artist's perception of the world as a stimulant to our own perception. Cayce recommended listening to music to transform your emotions. Music can help us bridge the gap between the physical body and the infinite reaches of consciousness. Music also serves as a bridge between changes in activities, to help change our mood when we need to relax, or when we need to get up and work. Music helps you experience your feelings more clearly, deal with them better, and ultimately change your mood. Listening to music is a wonderful way to open the channel to inspiration and visions. Nature as master teacher of creativity. Tune into the sound of music in nature. If we can attune ourselves to nature's music, we will be getting close to hearing the music of the spheres, that celestial music played by angels. When you're in nature, find your own way to hum or make sounds that blend in with the nature's sounds. In this way you attune yourself to the vibrational frequency of nature. You can learn something about channeling from examining and reflecting upon any aspect of nature you meet. Attune yourself to animals, insects, or birds. Become one with their energy. Participate in the arts in the spirit of play. Of all the arts, we carry the ability of music expression with us at all times. A wonderful channeling exercise is to sing to yourself in the shower or on your way to work. Our voice is the highest vibration we can achieve with our physical body. Chanting also allows you to channel with your voice a surprising amount of expression from your higher self. Quiet or silent humming can also be a form of prayer. It's great practice to cultivate your willingness to flow with your spontaneous, improvised self-expression. Creating life seals. This is similar to a vision map, a personal poster displaying symbols related to your ideal, your feeling for your higher self, and of your soul's purpose for this life. Draw or make a collage. To begin, ask yourself, what is my highest ideal? What are the most important qualities of my higher self? What do I consider to be my purpose in life? What talents do I have? Include your dreams, symbols or images. Placement of your symbols holds meaning as well. Left, where we have come from and what we're bringing with us. Right, where we are headed. Center, essential focus of this life. Top area, ideals, values or a guiding wisdom. Bottom, raw energies or other natural resources to develop, or our foundation. Purpose of a life seal. To stimulate yourself. Evoke a sense of higher purpose, higher consciousness. Serves as a reminder of your higher self. It's like a commercial for your spiritual life. Creativity and channeling. Practicing being in the spirit of creativity, owning our birthright of unique self-expression, is very important in developing the awareness of channeling ability. The word recreation means rest and renewal, play and creation. Its essential value is in teaching us the joy of being a channel of expression, a channel that can express in a manner like no other the living, the presence of the higher self. Questions and exercises. 1. Look at a painting or watch Dancing with the Stars on TV or American Idol. As you watch them, empathically unite with them as if it is your body moving and feel the freedom, the sense of being uplifted, the excitement and the joy that such emotion brings to the soul. We can all dance in our imagination. Empathic exercises like this can open us to contact soul forces within. 2. When you're in nature, find your own way to hum or make sounds that blend in with the nature's sounds. In this way you attune yourself to the vibrational frequency of nature. 3. Attune yourself to insects, birds or animals. Example. I looked at an ant carrying a breadcrumb 4 times its own size. I recognize that channeling creativity is not simply a matter of inspiration, but also of perspiration. I see that persistence, the willingness to make enduring efforts, is often required to manifest goals that feel so much larger than my own abilities. 4. Singing exercise. Sing in the shower or while driving to work. Chant or practice silent humming. Play with sounds and get in touch with your inner child that dreams and sings and dances. 5. Create a life seal or vision map based on your ideals and your higher self. Chapter 8. The Visionary Channel of the Imagination. Today's affirmation, universal love and abundance, is circulating in my life. In order not to have to reincarnate, one must learn to do good for its own sake. The boy who saw true spirit guide, elder brother. The Boy Who Saw True. The Boy Who Saw True is the private journal of a young British boy who kept a diary of his psychic, visionary experiences from the time he could write until he was about 20 years old. The boy had the ability to see people's thoughts. They appeared as images surrounding the person. He could also read people's energy and see what was coming in their future. Cayce would have us understand that thoughts are things. They're alive, they affect those around us. Thoughts are one element of the unseen forces and can be seen through the imagination. Many of our dreams are actual visits with others. People who have died do not become all-knowing spirits. They only have access to the same wisdom we do on earth. People don't become smarter after they die, except to know that there is life after death. The boy who saw true asked his elder brother spirit guide how a soul might come to not have to return for another life. The reply was, besides paying off debts and not doing any more evil, one must learn to do good for its own sake. Strong desires act like a boomerang. You hurl them forth into time in the shape of desires, and they come back to you in the shape of fulfillment. Incomplete strong desires bring you back to earth to fulfill them. The etheric field of the imaginative forces. The physical world is but a fleeting shadow, an effect and end product of the mind's pattern projection of spiritual energy. If you don't think you imagine well, begin with sensing feelings. Imagination is the psychic, intuitive foundation, the receptive and informative background of the ability of the physical eyes to see. We do our seeing with the mind's eye, not the eyeballs. Psychologists agree that perceiving is a creative act. It's the same source that creates manifestations that also experiences them. It's why the word visionary means both perceptive and creative. Perceiving and creating reality are soul mates. Psychics read people's energy. We see the situation of the boy, from the boy who saw true, seeing the thought forms, sticking to his visitor. These thought forms are etheric patterns of the imaginative forces in the visitor's subconscious mind. These patterns are about to be manifested in the visitor's physical life, in events that will soon come to pass. With his imagination, the boy sees, through the channel of the subconscious mind, these thought forms and is able to predict the visitor's future. The creative power of visualization. The act of visualization, holding the product of imagination firmly in mind and acting as if it will materialize, harnesses and shapes the imaginative forces to create its physical reality. Medical science has now confirmed that we can use mental imagery to control the workings of the body. Imagery is the language of the subconscious mind, that portion of the mind which rules the body and steers most of our actions. Imagery is the process by experiencing in patterns rather than in linear, logical thought. Cayce teaches us to set an ideal, visualize a goal, act as if it were coming to pass. The psychic, inspired imagination. When you give the imagination free rein, it proves to be inspired, or psychic. You may feel like you're just making it up, creating it yourself. Creativity, psychic, and inspiration have the same source. Patterns from someone else's thoughts and feelings could be influencing your own. ESP researchers have found that one person's thoughts can exert a subliminal influence upon the daydream patterns of another person. The daydreamer doesn't even suspect it. Beware, subconscious minds are connected and can influence us. Developing imagination through pretending. Many fear they are not visual learners. This fear is unfounded. We all visualize. We can't see without imagery. What most people mean when they say they can't visualize is that their visualizations aren't as clear as what they see with their eyes. The solution is easy. Simply pretend. Do the pretend exercise below. Remember, children pretend all the time. Kids don't concern themselves with how vivid their pretending is, or whether it's occurring through images or thoughts. or even that their pretending is different from reality. They're too busy playing in their pretend world to notice any of that. They become absorbed in their pretending. It becomes real. How can we distinguish between wishful thinking and psychic information? It's the role of ideals to help us invoke imagination in the service of truth rather than our desires. The role of the higher self. Roles can be tools we use to enter certain states of awareness. When we put on the mask, we hide our own face. It allows us to get out of the way, to forget about our own personality. When we put on the costume, it allows us to attune to the spirit of the role. It's like stepping inside the ideal itself and becoming it. Channelers who ask their spirit guides whether or not they're really spirits, or a figment of their imagination, often receive the reply that it doesn't matter. The two alternatives are the same. Channeling visionary guidance from the higher soul. You know what it's like to have an imaginary conversation with a spouse, or friend, or boss at work. Why not have one with an inspired teacher? An excellent resource for imagination techniques is Seeing with the Mind's Eye by Dr. Mike Samuels. Playing music can help intensify the process. Imagination is a wonderful channel of wondrous teachings and guidance. Meditation teaches you to become a channel of the spirit of inspiration. With your imagination, you have a vehicle that knows no limits. To intensify your channeling experience further, you can use self-hypnosis, where we enter the domain of trance channeling. Question and exercises. 1. Tell your mouth to become wet. Say to yourself, salivate, over and over. See how much response you get. Now try using an image. Imagine holding half a lemon in your hand. Imagine squeezing it until beads of juice appear on its surface. Bring that lemon to your mouth and suck the juice. If you can imagine it, you'll see what I mean. Your mouth gets very wet. Although a thought only makes you think, an image touches and affects our whole being. 2. Pretending to visualize. Instead of trying to visualize your arm immersed in warm water, pretend that your arm is immersed in warm water. Take a moment to put your arm on the chair or on a table. Then pretend that your arm is resting in a dish of warm water. What does it feel like to pretend that your arm is resting in a dish of warm water? If you examine your thoughts and feelings closing, you'll discover that perhaps you feel that your pretending isn't very vivid. If so, what is it that you're paying attention to that helps you feel that your pretending isn't vivid? 3. Role-playing A. Imagine being your higher self, and through role-playing ask and answer questions between yourself and your higher self. Attune to your ideal, set self aside, and let the ideal express itself. Imagine what it would be like then, to play the role of someone who personified the ideals of your higher self. What may start as pretending and acting becomes a channel of a quality of spirit. Imagination becomes real. 4. Role-playing B. Think of a special place where you'd like to meet with your higher self figure or guardian angel. Imagining being in that place will put you in the mood of your ideal. While you're there, basking in the wonderful vibrations of your power spot, imagine seeing your higher self figure guardian angel approach you. Experience the person's special qualities, and what it's like to be in that person's presence. Pour your heart out to your higher self, expressing what's on your mind. Then simply listen as your higher self responds. Chapter 9. Who's there? Identifying the spirit who speaks. I easily discern messages from my ego and messages from my higher self. There is being awakened within self a power and influence. Do not allow this to be directed by an entity that does proclaim himself or herself as being the guide. Why? For, as indicated, the abilities have been such in self, and the soul development, that to call upon the infinite is much greater, much more satisfying, much more worthwhile in the experience of an individual soul than being guided or directed merely by an entity outside of self that, as self, is being in a state of transition or development. Edgar Cayce. Identifying the spirit who speaks. A tribe in Malaysia, the Semai, considers spirits to be mischievous and untrustworthy. The Semai know that the spirits can often lead people astray or into danger. When the Semai were asked, why? They said, it's because the spirits are jealous. They're dead while the people are alive. The history of spiritualism began on March 31, 1848 in Hydesville, New York. There had been mysterious rapping sounds in the home of the Fox family. They discovered it was a spirit trying to communicate with them. He used a rapping code. 2 raps for no and 1 rap for yes. The rapper claimed to have been murdered, identified the name of the murderer, and indicated it had been buried in the cellar. This was confirmed. Within 2 years a new religion was born. Spiritualism. Parapsychology tests the spirits. Parapsychology, the scientific study of paranormal events. Such research will never be able to prove or disprove the reality of life after death. Instead, it led to some convincing demonstrations of the telepathic ability of the medium's spirit guides. They did a study to prove or disprove Eileen Garrett, a well-respected medium who channeled Avani. The results showed that Mrs. Garrett and her Avani voice at least had ESP ability, but it didn't prove whether Avani was in fact who he claimed to be, a spirit from the dead. Was Edgar Cayce a medium? Cayce's trance channeling seems quite similar to mediumship. He entered an altered state of consciousness and delivered information about the afterlife and the condition of those deceased. He seemed to be in communication with spirits. Please note that Cayce explains traditional mediumship as when a spirit spoke through his mouth and addressed the audience. I believe in our day and age we refer to mediumship as transferring information from spirit to person, and trance channeling is when a spirit speaks directly through a person's mouth. I would be interested in your own interpretation of this. There is a reporting of Cayce trance channeling Archangel Michael and it having quite a profound effect on the sitters. 99% of the time Cayce functioned as a trance channeler of his higher consciousness. Cayce's perspective on mediumship and the subconscious mind. Thoughts are things. Those thoughts live on in eternity. There is also the continued activity, which is the soul's spirit journey in other dimensions of being. Communication across the channel of the subconscious mind operates on the principle of affinity, i.e., like attracts like. When we channel the thought patterns of the deceased, or recall their past life memories, we do so in a selective manner that most resonates with our own subconscious feelings, motivations, and needs, aka filters. The bottom line is that channeling information through a third party is only about 80% reliable because of the interference with the medium's filters, research states. The best thing we can do for our departed loved ones is to pray for them and telling them, "What are you doing listening to me instead of focusing on the light and going on?" The dead have little to teach the living. The dead have impressive ESP powers, but beware of mistaking this for higher wisdom. Pursuing communication with the dead distracts all concerned from their own inner development. It's for that reason that Cayce had reservations about mediumship. Edgar Cayce and Eileen Garrett channel for each other. In 1934, Edgar and Eileen met to give a psychic reading for each other to exchange viewpoints on the source of each other's channeling ability. The readings confirmed the difference between channeling your higher self versus a spirit guide. The difference. Personal perspective. Cayce's perspective was religious orientation toward union with God, and Eileen's perspective was philosophical orientation toward understanding. Eileen's guide, Avani, told Cayce that channeling his higher self was harder to do than making use of a spirit guide as an intermediary. Avani also told Cayce that there was one spirit guide who was standing by ready and able to assist him, and which had already done so when Cayce's own energy level was low. Cayce told Eileen that her mediumship ability was developed over many past lives with her intense desire to teach people about metaphysical principles. Also, her mediumship today was motivated in that same spirit in promoting understanding. Finally, her channeling ability was a combination of her own soul awareness along with assistance provided by influences that had an attitude and desire to teach others. The psychoanalysis of spirit guides. 30 years after the Cayce Garrett reading, Eileen asked a friend, Ira Progoff, to interview her spirit guides. She wanted to learn more about their true nature. Were they actually spirits who lived before, or were they part of her own personality, as psychologists believed? The spirits explained that they are intimately connected with Eileen, and to get rid of them would be to get rid of her and vice versa. The spirits also said that it's not appropriate to ask who is speaking, but better to ask what quality of consciousness or level of reality is being expressed at the moment. Cayce himself mentions that when he channels his higher self, he often experiences his information coming through an old man figure. Progoff determined it's not accurate to conclude that such figures are subpersonalities of the channel. We're contacting a level of the mind that is transpersonal, that is impersonal, that goes far beyond the channel's own personality. Progoff concluded that it's more accurate to think of them as personifications. Example: Mother Teresa is the personification of charity and goodwill. Rambo is the personification of courage. Cayce's wise old man symbol personifies the mind's capacity to bring knowledge and insight from the depths. The wise old man is a role the mind plays when it creates pearls of wisdom and brings them to the surface. Edward Edinger, a Jungian psychiatrist, commented that our desire to expand our consciousness comes from the innate urge of life to realize itself consciously. For Eileen, Ivani is a doorkeeper, a protector, a role that served to protect the open channel from the very many voices that would come through. Bhavani pointed out that any entity, enthusiasts, foolish ones, anguished ones, can come through when the channel is open, so that he needs to guard the opening for the protection of the instrument. Progoff also determined there were two aspects of the four energies that Eileen channeled. 1. Psychic abilities, accessing information, and 2. Being an oracle, delivering wisdom. 2 of the spirits demonstrated psychic abilities, while the other 2 functioned more as oracles. The purpose of channeling is to bring new meaning. When human beings struggle and wrestle with the ultimate questions about nature, about life, the principle of the word, or what he calls the inner principle of meaning, will be present there in the struggle. If the human being can persevere in the struggle, the principle of the word will help bring inspiration or insights to that person. Why have you come? When Progoff asks Eileen's spirit guides this question, they respond with, to instruct us of the true nature of our reality and to remind us of our talents, so that we might take a more constructive role in shaping the future of the planet. The oracle level of the mind speaks an unchanging message. The darker side of trance channeling. Whatever possessed me? There are many ways we can be possessed. Our own regressed, unconscious impulses influencing us. Cultural propaganda hypnotizing us with assumptions or values that aren't necessarily true. Intuitive urges based on subliminal telepathic information. The influence of the wishes of our friends and family members. The whispering of spirits. Ideas, feelings, and needs in the subconscious mind can exert irresistible influences on our behavior, regardless of how they get there. Whatever the source, whether it's advertisements or spirits, there is always an affinity between the possessor and the possessed. We all have a darker side, and the influence is drawing out our darkness, giving us that extra push. Just as deep inside our psyche there rises the spirit of wisdom, personified as higher self, so there is a spirit of evil, sometimes personified as the devil. Evil. Evil isn't a separate force, all force is the one energy of God, but that it's a pattern of use of that one force for personal indulgence at the expense of the whole, a willful and knowing rebellion against God's will. It's a powerful transpersonal pattern, existing both within and beyond the individual personality. Nothing can possess us against our will. Self-indulgence can weaken our aura where potential spirits can move in. Other examples of weakened auric energy fields, improper meditation practices, dissociated states of mind, accidents, alcohol, illness, extreme emotional states such as rage or chemical intoxication. Caution. Given these potential sources of possession, from the ordinary to the demonic, it seems important that we give careful thought to how we open ourselves to the psychic, transpersonal, and potentially turbocharged energy of the psyche. Resources: People of the Lie. M. Scott Peck. Cases of True Possession by the Spirit of Evil. The Unquiet Dead, a Psychologist Treats Spirit Possession. Dr. Edith Fiore. Return from Tomorrow. George Ritchie. Talks about disembodied spirits entering the living. While Ritchie was out of body during a near-fatal heart attack, he saw shadowy entities entering the bodies of drunken servicemen as they fell to the floor in a drunken stupor. Unlike most people who have a complete aura of light around their bodies, the servicemen had holes in their auras that opened up to admit the spirits. Makes you wonder if you dare ever drink too much again, you might not arrive home alone. The Infinite Boundary, a psychic look at spirit possession, madness, and multiple personality. D. Scott Rogo. Channeling Your Higher Self. Cayce decided against using a spirit guide to channel information per se, not that he never used a spirit guide, but he left that decision to the will of God. Cayce's main focus was always that we not be diverted from growing in our own awareness, of developing our own higher consciousness. We all appreciate the advice of developing an unnecessary despondency on a crutch. It undermines our own growth, realizing our own potential. By seeking the highest within, we provide the best possible channel available. Questions and exercises. 1. What do you believe is a higher purpose for communicating with departed loved ones? Do you agree with Cayce that communication with dead spirits distracts all concerned from their own inner development? 2. In the darker side of channeling, Cayce shares more about our dark side. What was the most surprising or enlightening piece of information that you took away from this chapter or this section specifically? Chapter 10. Evaluating Channeled Guidance. Today's affirmation: I have divine power within me that creates miracles in my life. When the student is ready, the teacher, whether an inner teacher or an external one, will appear. Evaluating channeled guidance. Main ingredients of channeling inspired wisdom. 1. Having a genuine need to know. 2. Making the necessary attunement. 3. Having the ability and intention to put that guidance into service. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Readiness involves both the person's ability to recognize guidance and to be able to apply it. Getting guidance from someone else's own psychic abilities can help you recognize your own. Learning to evaluate channeled guidance is part of the process of channeling. Cayce's guidance heuristic. Heuristic is a method of discovery. It's based upon the assumption that there's no perfect absolute truth, only better and more workable approximations to it. Heuristic mantra. Pray hard as if everything depended on God, work hard as if everything depended on you. Do your best with what you have available and more will be given. Cayce's law. In the application comes the awareness. What is the question? Identifying the appropriate question is very important, as the question will influence the answer. A vague question results in a general answer. It is the desire of the seeker, the particular quality of the vibrational pattern of the need to know, that stimulates and focuses the energy from which the guidance is created. Ideals and purposes. When it comes to evaluating guidance, especially the results of applying the guidance. The outcomes that do result will ultimately be compared with the original purpose or intention. Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Set a purpose or intention for contacting your higher self. Thinking about possibly satisfying outcomes helps clarify the purpose. Values are important and need to be considered carefully in preparing for guidance. This is where Cayce's emphasis on ideals comes into play. Ideals serve as a guiding star. Giving consideration to ideals when contacting your higher self needs to be a top priority, not only because of the importance of aligning our purpose with our values, but also because of the quality of the energy that is activated. Example of an ideal. Truth is beauty. Simply meditating briefly on the ideal oftentimes solves the problem. When presenting the question to another psychic, time spent contemplating the ideal has a tremendous effect on the quality of information that comes through the psychic. Consider the source. Consider all of the possible sources of information, desire, expectations, the subconscious as well as universal awareness. All of these sources can affect the message differently than the source of highest guidance. If a psychic says, "I'm not able to get anything on this question," it's a good sign that the psychic respects the process and is working from integrity. It's universally true that what blocks us from the awareness of all wisdom is our sense of self. Higher beings usually speak as if they are personifications of eternal principles, and manifested as identities and only for the sake of the listener. Pay less attention to the pain and feelings of your personal situation and speak in the language of universal truths. Our compassionate insistence on the reality that we are spiritual beings and we create our own reality. Our patient and forgiving orients you to your spiritual destiny but focuses on what's your next step. Speaks in humble tones and has a great sense of humor. Evaluating the guidance. Don't get lost in trying to pinpoint the exact source of channeled guidance. Focus instead on determining what, if any, of the guidance is valuable. Ask yourself, does the guidance make sense? Does it speak to the situation? Is it workable? Does it seem constructive? Do you have a positive response to it? Examine the guidance from the point of view of the ideal that you set. If it doesn't meet the standard of your ideal, either you should forget it, or else you may decide that you have some soul searching to do. Assuming the guidance passes these preliminary tests, seek a second opinion. Cayce advocated never put all your eggs in one basket. Never rely on one single external channel as a sole source of information. Look for commonalities and for correlations in the information. Evaluating guidance. 1. Compare the results of a psychic reading with your inspirational writing and then your dreams. 2. Form an opinion. 3. Take it into meditation. The final test, applying the guidance. Cayce advises to test guidance by applying it in practice. Determine if the guidance works. Try it out, test it, and see. Good ideas are a dime a dozen, but one idea put to good use is golden. Don't ask the question if you're not ready to take responsibility for the answer. Questions and exercises. 1. Sometimes you don't know what you need to know. There is no question at first, just a problem, a sense of unease, difficulty, or pain. By yourself, or with the help of a good listener, it's possible to start with a felt sense of frustration or conflict to determine what is needed by way of guidance. Perhaps the process would begin simply by a statement of facts. I'm very dissatisfied with blank, and I want to know what to do about it. It helps to get more specific. What exactly is bothering you and why? What are you seeking in a solution? What are your goals? What are your constraints? Chapter 11. Using hypnosis to become a trance channel. Whenever my thoughts are not in alignment with my purpose, the universal force sends me a sign. The study of the self may best be done by suggestive forces to the body through hypnosis. Edgar Cayce. Hypnosis. Self-hypnosis. Creating Your Own Destiny by Henry Boldix. Entering hypnosis is basically a process of deep relaxation while maintaining a quiet awareness. It's much like what we experience in meditation, with the possibility of adding further suggestions to open the imagination to deeper channels of the mind. I personally see little difference between meditation and hypnosis, as Edgar points out as well. For me, the only difference is suggestion. So when I work with people, I use meditation to induce a state of relaxation, using the word deeper and deeper, a lot more than usual, and then I give them positive suggestions based on their issue. That's what makes it hypnosis versus just meditation. Edgar Cayce's story of hypnosis. Hypnotism played a significant role in Cayce's development as a psychic channel. Hypnotism was a fad in America in the 1980s. One of hypnosis' more dramatic aspects was the psychic powers it often revealed. It took many years before Cayce finally accepted that his psychic readings were beneficial to those in need. With his psychic X-ray eyes, he could look within the body and describe internal conditions that doctors would then verify with their own exams. Cayce's story? As a traveling salesman, Cayce stopped at a doctor's office and got some medicine for a headache. He became delirious, and it was determined that the sedative had been too strong. When he recovered, he had lost his voice. He sought out a hypnotist to help him recover his voice, which grew very hoarse. He could recover his voice under hypnosis, but not out of hypnosis. He sought out another hypnotist who determined he seemed to resist accepting the post-hypnotic suggestions about his throat, as if wanting to take charge of himself. It was suggested that someone hypnotize Cayce and then give him the suggestion to talk about his illness. C. Lane began working with Cayce. Lane gave Cayce the suggestion that C. would put himself to sleep. When it appeared C. was sleeping, L. suggested that C. would see his body and describe the trouble with his throat. Cayce spoke in a clear, not hoarse, voice, saying, "Yes, we have the body." The voice went on to describe the problem in his throat as due to poor circulation. He indicated that the circulation could be improved by the use of suggestion while he was in this unconscious state. Lane gave the suggestion that C. voice would return to normal. His throat turned bright red. 20 minutes later he awoke healed. Within a few days C. voice grew hoarse again, so he had to visit L. repeatedly. L. began to use C. to diagnose other patients' readings that he had. Knowing that under hypnosis C. was unaware of any exchange between himself and L. C. found out and was quite upset. Word of this leaked out to the press, which is how the public came to learn of C. abilities. The suggestibility of the subconscious during hypnosis. Hypnosis. A state of heightened suggestibility. Communicating directly with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind operates on the principle of suggestion. It accepts any statement as being true. The conscious mind operates on the principle of reasoning. It rejects any statement until analyzed and evaluated. Seduces the attention of the conscious mind and redirects it elsewhere. Relaxation. Relaxation aids in the process of hypnosis. As the body relaxes, the sensory system also relaxes and the conscious mind grows dim. Similar to falling asleep. The difference between sleep and hypnosis: the conscious mind doesn't dissolve because the hypnotist's voice has captured its attention and gives it a restful focus. If the hypnotist were to stop talking for an extended length of time, the conscious mind would lose focus and fall asleep. Bypassing the conscious mind to access the subconscious mind. As the person relaxes more fully, and the dimming conscious mind rests upon the pillow of the hypnotist's voice, the subconscious becomes uninhibited and opens up to accept suggestion. Remember, the subconscious mind accepts any suggestion. So the key to hypnosis is to bypass the conscious mind through relaxation and connect with the subconscious mind through positive suggestions. It's very easy to do. Whatever the hypnotist suggests can be vividly imagined by the subconscious mind. And what it thus imagines, it takes as reality. Learning self-hypnosis through relaxation imagery. You can learn to enter the hypnotic state yourself by learning to respond to your own suggestions. Focusing on images suggestive of relaxing is the basic procedure. See the steps for self-hypnosis outlined below in the questions and exercises section. Hypnosis and ESP. All subconscious minds are in contact with one another. If hypnosis is a means of communicating directly with the subconscious mind, we should expect that ESP would be more pronounced during hypnosis than during the normal, waking state. There has been some research on telepathic hypnosis, whereby a hypnotist can connect with your mind telepathically at great distances similar to distance Reiki. Sending people thoughts of encouragement is a natural and positive use of telepathic suggestion. Hypnosis often increases telepathic abilities. Hypnotic imagery, a channel of self-diagnosis. Cayce indicated that we could diagnose ourselves if we would turn within. The inner wisdom figure is an image representation of a state of consciousness, an internal awareness that has proven therapeutic value. Once again, we see the value and power of the personification. Using an image of a person or being can unlock hidden powers within the mind. Self-diagnosis. 1. Enter a light hypnotic state using self-hypnosis outlined in the questions and exercises section. 2. Next, imagine being on top of a mountain searching for a path down. 3. Descend down the mountain and discover a secret door leading into the depths of the mountain. 4. Door number 1. Open the door and enter an atmospheric vibration of renewal and restoration. 5. Door number 2. Looking around, you see another door with a sign upon it reading, "The One Who Knows Health." 6. Open door number 2 and meet a person or being who knows everything about your body. 7. You sit down in front of this knowing being and ask questions. 8. The being answers your questions with colors, shapes, words, phrases, images, etc. The power of hypnotic role-playing. Role-playing allows us to take on the characteristics of the role, to channel whatever characteristics the role suggests. Role-playing is a process of pretending. It engages the channel of the subconscious mind through an act of the imagination. By neutralizing the conscious mind and providing more direct access to the subconscious, hypnosis can increase the power of role-playing to an incredible degree. Role-playing also shows the power of personification, how proposing an image of a being can open a profound channel of inspiration. Edgar Cayce's Hypnotic Journey. The Journey Within, Past Life Regression and Channeling, by Henry Bolduc. Channeling is an expression of the channel's own growth and consciousness. Edgar outlines how he journeys within. He imagines moving along a path of light as a tiny dot outside of his physical body. Shapes and forms appear and dissolve. Suddenly he sees a hall of records without walls. An old man hands him a large book, a record of the individual for whom he seeks information. Trance channeling. Rubbing your hands together activates and opens the channel. Trance channeling is like taking time out, as in meditation, to honor and focus exclusively upon a state of awareness that's always there. Questions and exercises. 1. Learning self-hypnosis. Get into a comfortable position. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. Do this 5-7 times. Inhaling deeply, exhaling long and slow and completely. Focus on your arm. Notice anything about your arm that might feel like heaviness and say to yourself, My right arm is heavy. Don't do anything with your arm, just lie there. Repeat the phrase several times. Allow yourself to experience your arm as feeling heavy. As you imagine your arm feeling heavy, notice how you let go and relaxing your right arm. You are responding to suggestion. 2. After about a minute, move on to your left arm and repeat the process, then say, My arms are heavy. 3. Move on to your legs. Right leg. Left leg. Both legs. 4. Finally, spread your focus out over your arms and legs. Say, My arms and legs are heavy. 5. The more you let go and relax, the more you are responding to suggestion, and the more you are becoming absorbed in a self-hypnotic trance. 6. Level 2. Repeat above process, only use the word warm. My right arm is warm. Then at the end say, My arms and legs are heavy and warm. 7. Level 3. Begin to focus on your breath. Watch your breath without interfering with anything and say, It breathes me. 8. By now you have become very relaxed. You will notice your thinking is hazier and you may experience spontaneous daydreams, or have a tendency to fall asleep. You're bordering on the sleep state. You're beginning to directly experience the region of the subconscious mind. 9. Role play with your higher self. Chapter 12. The channel of cooperation in a group. Whenever my thoughts are not in alignment with my purpose, the universal force sends me a sign. A group channels an artificial ghost. As each star in the sky gives its own illumination of the darkness, each of us functions as a portion of God's awareness. Each of us functions as a unique channel of God's consciousness. Edgar Cayce. Cooperation is an excellent form of channeling. We set aside exclusive focus on ourselves and act in harmony with others toward a common goal. Learning to cooperate in a group is a good way to learn channeling. Conjuring up Philip, artificial ghost. Members of a Toronto Society for Psychical Research conducted an experiment trying to create an artificial ghost, and they succeeded. They began by inventing a fictitious character named Philip. Each person took turns adding details and info to this make-believe story. For over a year they met once a week and sat in meditation trying to channel Philip to no avail. In the second year they tried a different approach. It was suggested that by creating an informal social event where they were laughing, singing and telling jokes and having fun, Philip would be more likely to show up. After the fourth session they heard a rapping on the table. It was Philip, the artificial ghost. Philip could not only rap the table, but he could lift it up and move it across the room. He could also control what stayed on the table and what fell off when he turned the table upside down. The group noted that Philip showed no more knowledge of himself than the group had created of him. Were their imagined scenario of Philip different from that time period, Philip followed their version. Philip remained faithful to their imagination, not to the facts of that era. Philip was clearly not a spirit. They interpreted Philip as an artificially created thought form. This creation of their group mind was capable of creating quite dramatic and seemingly intelligent physical phenomena. The Toronto experiment instructed a second group of people to copy this experiment. They created Lilith, with identical results. What is the significance of the Philip experiment? We certainly see some suggestive evidence about the reality of thought forms and their ability to mimic the presence of an actual spirit. It also shows the power of group energy working cooperatively to channel. The channel of cooperation. Cayce said the first step in developing psychic ability is to learn how to cooperate within a group. A Search for God is a study group hosted by ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. Nature interacts in an overall pattern of cooperation. Rediscovering the spirit of cooperation actually places us more closely aligned with a consciousness that promotes our better channeling. The act of cooperation attunes us to the transpersonal level of our existence, joined with the rest of creation in a unitary expression. We as lights in the Yes, we have the group, as gathered here, seeking to be a channel that they, as a group, as individuals, may be, and give, the light to the waiting world. First let each prepare themselves and receive that as will be given unto each in their respective sphere of development, of desire, of ability. The first lesson, as has been given, learn what it means to cooperate in one mind, in God's way. For, as each would prepare themselves, in meditating day and night, in What wilt thou have me do, O Lord? And the answer will be definite, clear to each as are gathered here, will they seek in His name, for He is among you in this present hour, for all as seek are in that attitude of prayer. Edgar Cayce, reading 262. We as lights in the prayer interpretation seek to know God, to know ourselves, and one another, and to be able to express that knowledge in the world as a group and as individual. Channel, through the way you live, your developing awareness of your individual mirroring of God. We are as lights in God. As each star in the sky gives its own illumination of the darkness, each of us functions as a portion of God's awareness. Each of us is a unique channel of God's consciousness. The Dream Helper Ceremony. 1. Gather some people together. I don't believe this need be done under the same roof, but it certainly could be more fun that way, for an overnight healing service. 2. Ask, who among us is feeling troubled by a specific problem and is willing to ask the group for help? 3. Don't reveal the nature of the problem until the next morning. 4. After everyone's dreams have been shared, then you can reveal the issue. 5. Then the person with the problem leads the group in a silent meditation, and then everyone prepares for bed. 6. Be sure to say, "Tonight your dreams belong to someone else." Don't lose them or censor any dream material you may recall. 7. In the morning, oftentimes the dreamers don't think they've had dreams related to the person's problem at all. 8. After everyone shares, and the person with the issue shares, you begin to see the connections and relatedness of the symbolism and images. It is as if before going to sleep, each person engages his or her instinctive, projective empathy to intuit that aspect of the volunteer's undisclosed problem that corresponds naturally with an unreconciled issue within the person's own life. This technique is a powerful group ceremony for channeling dream guidance. It gives the group an opportunity to function as a psychic consultant, or group oracle of healing. Dreams Beyond Dreaming by Jean Campbell. Based on this experiment of Dream Helper, showing evidence that this is more effective than a psychic reading. It's a great way for a group to be a channel of blessing to someone in need, while at the same time learning something about themselves. People sharing of themselves with one another can channel a fountain of enlightenment. The Cotton Ball, Getting to Know You. Getting to know you, exercise to use with a group of strangers. Take turns introducing yourself, but rather than saying anything personal, the person merely says, "Mary had a little lamb." While saying this, the person imagines a positive scene in their mind that expresses something in their life. The group empathically attunes to the sound of the person's voice and monitors their own spontaneous reaction. Contemplate for 1 minute on the person's voice vibration. Share any images, colors, feelings, or words that came. Notice common themes coming up amongst the group. Try to guess the nature of the scene the person was imagining. The group is usually wrong, although one person may hit on it. But the group does seem to be able to tune into some aspect of the person's life. This usually aligns with some commonality the person has with the focal person. For example, if the focal person was a teacher, the teacher in the group is able to pick that up. The Cotton Ball Ceremony, a more profound level of channeling. One person volunteers to ask the group for help with an undisclosed problem. This person takes a large wad of sterile cotton and rubs it between their hands while thinking about the problem. The rest of the group meditates. Next, the focal person breaks the cotton into small pieces and hands them out in the group. They hold the cotton in their hands and tune into their impressions. They verbalize whatever comes to mind. After everyone has shared, the focal person responds. Choir practice. Channeling the sounds of the higher self. Jungle symphony exercise. You can make spontaneous sounds which free you to be yourself as well as raise your consciousness. In a small group, ask everyone to make the sound of their favorite animal all at the same time. Do this a few times until people are comfortable to sound out loudly and for as long as a minute. Then ask the animals to respond to each other's sounds, to interact, to communicate, to harmonize as they would in nature. The Jungle Symphony is great fun and reminds people that their inner child still enjoys to play with sound. Questions and exercises. Learning self-hypnosis. Get into a comfortable position. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. Do this 5 to 7 times. Inhaling deeply, exhaling long and slow and completely. Focus on your arm. Notice anything about your arm that might feel like heaviness and say to yourself, "My right arm is heavy." Don't do anything with your arm, just lie there. Repeat the phrase several times. Allow yourself to experience your arm as feeling heavy. As you imagine your arm feeling heavy, notice how you let go and relax in your right arm. You are responding to suggestion. 1. After about a minute, move on to your left arm and repeat the process, then say, "My arms are heavy." 2. Move on to your legs. Right leg. Left leg. Both legs. 3. Finally, spread your focus out over your arms and legs. Say, "My arms and legs are heavy." 4. The more you let go and relax, the more you are responding to suggestion, and the more you are becoming absorbed in a self-hypnotic trance. 5. Level 2. Repeat above process, only use the word warm. My right arm is warm. Then at the end say, "My arms and legs are heavy and warm." 6. Level 3. Begin to focus on your breath. Watch your breath without interfering with anything and say, "It breathes me." 7. By now you have become very relaxed. You will notice your thinking is hazier and you may experience spontaneous daydreams, or have a tendency to fall asleep. You're bordering on the sleep state. You're beginning to directly experience the region of the subconscious mind. 8. Role play with your higher self. For a week, make a commitment to ask this question daily: what would you have me do, God? Then at the end of the week, check in with yourself and see if you have been divinely inspired to do anything in your life. Dream Helper Ceremony. Let me know if you are interested in doing this and I will coordinate something. Chapter 13. Being a channel of healing forces. I believe there is a higher power working through me which is helping me reach my goals. The best way to be a blessing to others. Be yourself, your real, true, spontaneous, essential, genuinely individual self. Edgar Cayce. The Secret of the Green Thumb. Luther Burbank was a famous horticulturist. He grew thornless cacti by telling the plants that they had nothing to fear and thus no need for such protection. The secret to improved plant breeding is love. Burbank was a practiced meditator. It was by meditating with his plants that he learned their secrets. He was able to heal the sick as well as the plants. As we nurture our gardens, it rejuvenates us. Developing a green thumb is good for our health as well as our plants. Your attitude while gardening is very important. Plants tended by a grouchy gardener are hard on our digestion. Awareness of the unseen forces in creation. The invisible forces, the intelligence of creativity at work in plant life, in all life, is what Cayce called the creative forces. Behaving as if the God and all life mattered, a New Age Ecology, by Machel Small Wright. Wright tells us that nature instructed her how to meditate, and then introduced her to the invisible forces at work in the plants, animals, and insects. These overlighting intelligences are also known as fairies, devas, nature spirits, and elementals. She sought contact with these forces within herself. Humans, being one with nature, contain these forces within as well as without. Cayce taught that by merging intuitively with plants, becoming one with them, we can develop an awareness of the unseen forces at work. In setting yourself aside and joining the plant in the spirit of love, you become a channel of the creative energy in harmony with the plant. Through the plant exercise, you will be able to experience the energy pattern of the plant. Remember, what you want to see is within you. See the plant exercise below. Awakening the atomic power of healing forces from within. There is consciousness all throughout our body. With a little training, subjects can make contact with individual cells within the body and affect their functioning. Every atom in the body has consciousness. When we meditate, the ideal we focus on shapes our awareness. This altering of our consciousness filters down to every cell in our body, every atom. For purposes of healing, use the ideal of Christ consciousness, or being one with God. Allow the consciousness of every atom within the body to be filled with the awareness of God. The effect of this awareness is to alter the very rotary forces themselves within the heart of the atom. Remember from Chapter 2 that atoms are in instant communication with one another. They appear to communicate the information contained in the rotary activity within the atom. It is something about the spin of energy within the core of the atom that serves as an instantaneous telepathic link between all atoms. Cayce linked the effect on the rotary forces within the atoms of the body during deep meditation to the opening of the channel of the healing forces of creation. See the exercise below on awakening universal life force. Research on channeled healing. Healing through prayer and the laying on of hands has a long history. Laying on of hands. A nuclear physicist tested the ability of the gifted healer, Olga Worrell, to affect bacteria growing in special laboratory containers. Olga would hold the container in her hands and attempt to retard or enhance the bacterial growth. Results proved that Olga could significantly affect bacterial growth in whichever direction she chose. Another study was done using inexperienced college students, which showed they could also affect the growth. Another study was done where healers laid hands upon patients with real illnesses. The healers wore special gloves with water in the palms. The study showed the water had been atomically altered. This proves that laying on of hands has the power to atomically alter the body. Power of prayer. A study was done that showed receiving prayer aided recovery. Patients receiving prayer recovered with significantly fewer complications than the patients who did not. Studies also show that this is effective even when the patient's own belief system is not relevant. They are unaware they are being prayed for. This shows that people can channel healing energies that operate on molecular structures themselves. The Glad Helpers. Cayce gave a lengthy series of psychic readings on the healing power of meditation and prayer. Referred to as the prayer group, readings because they were given for a group of people who wanted to learn how to become healers through prayer and the laying on of hands. This group has evolved since 1931 into the ARE, Association for Research and Enlightenment. The Therapeutic Touch, How to Use Your Hands to Help and Heal, by Dolores Krieger. Cayce sees the development of healing ability, not as a technique, but more as an opportunity for soul growth for the practitioner as that person develops an awareness of oneness with God and is able to share that with others. The little things that count. To become channels of blessings, we must be willing to be active in life, ready to help when needed. It's the little things that count. A smile is as valuable as a prayer. Lending a hand. Reaching out to touch someone. giving a hug, taking time to listen. Remember, it's not for us to fix or rescue people. Keep your thoughts positive. Our thoughts are not private but affect those around us. Thinking kindly of others is as important as acting kindly toward others. Have faith in the process and leave the results to God. Nothing is achieved through self-doubt. Lay aside concerns about how you are doing. The best way to be a channel of blessings to others is by being yourself, your real, true, spontaneous, essential, genuinely individual self. Questions and exercises. Plant exercise. Find a plant that attracts you and become that plant in your imagination. 1. Approach the plant, acknowledging that it is expressing its creative nature with no reservations. 2. Thank it for being willing to share its secrets. 3. Approaching it as a living being will put you in the proper frame of mind. 4. Example: stand in front of a rosebush and imagine what it's like to be a rosebush, to grow and blossom and wither and bloom again. 5. Allow the images to work themselves into your body. 6. Mimic the feeling of the plant in the rhythm and movements of your body. Dance with the plant. 7. Allow your mood to express itself in sound. Sing the plant's song. 8. By giving yourself over to the spirit of life, express that life in your own way, openly, fully. 9. Become one with the plant. Join your spirit with the plant's spirit. Breathe. Awakening universal life force energy. Chapter 14. Being yourself, the ultimate form of channeling. Today's affirmation: my inner voice guides me in every moment. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening, that is translated through you into action, and because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any medium and be lost. The world will not have it. Martha Graham. Channeling is not a substitute for being yourself. Be careful not to devalue any thoughts that aren't channeled in some psychic fashion. If we approach channeling as a substitute rather than as a means to become who we really are, it won't work. If we use channeling as a crutch to simply compensate for a low self-image, rather than allowing it to touch and heal that problem, we cheat ourselves of the ultimate secret value of learning to be a channel. Allow your channeling to heal your self-doubts and teach you that you are okay and worthwhile. Channeling can teach self-esteem. Learning to step aside to remove oneself as a block to the channel is part of the process. Rather than being guarded about every word or action, you let go and talk and act freely without forethought. Trust your immediate experience. Accept the first images that come to mind, the first words that reach your lips. Let the ideal you have attuned to shine forth without hesitation or censorship. It's not easy being conscious of self without being self-conscious. Channeling involves learning self-acceptance. Again, learn to trust the value of your initial reactions, thoughts, or images is key. Serving an ideal opens the channel. Don't just be good for something. Edgar Cayce. Cayce indicated that his readings were stimulated by the need of the questioner. The greater and more genuine the person's need, the better Cayce's psychic functioning. It's the same for us. Whether we're serving a need or serving the expression of an ideal, when we respond to something more compelling than our own personal concerns, it's easier to set ourselves aside. Focusing on the other person's need can inspire our ingenuity. Expressing our love of a person in our work often helps us enjoy the process even more. The qualities we wish to have for ourselves we need to give to others. By becoming a channel of blessings, we ourselves are blessed. Service, the misunderstood secret. Testing channeled guidance by putting it into service, by applying it, helps test its validity, and, if valid, increases our awareness of its truth. Serving others distracts our attention away from ourselves so that we more readily open ourselves to channel. Service is not only the purpose for channeling, it's also its stimulant and its means. Unfortunately, it's too easy to interpret service as a should rather than a natural, meaningful part of channeling. When we serve as an expression of our self-esteem, doing good feels good. Helper's high has been proven to be real. It is a definite feeling in the body, a pleasant sensation accompanied by a mood that some describe as calm, warm, or glowing that comes from genuine altruism, service to others. Helper's high is the secret value of service, one of the blessings of being a channel. Become a conscious channel. The ultimate experience is not to channel, the ultimate experience is to become a conscious channel, capable of giving and receiving inspirations and sharing them in a state of conscious awareness. Henry Reed, the author of this book, has learned two things from channeling. 1. It taught me that I was something more than I suspected, that there was a spirit inside that connected me to the rest of creation. 2. It taught me that being myself was potentially a perfectly fine way to channel that spirit. Trance channeling showed Reed that the task ahead remains to learn how to love, to trust love, to be love, and to love being myself, in my own way. More trance channeling won't help me do that. To be yourself as only you can be. The only way you can be yourself is in the conscious awake state, acting in a totally spontaneous way. Know that when you go into trance, from the superconscious state of universal awareness, you'll sound pretty much like all the other trance channels who've tapped into that same source. When there's no ego at all, universal awareness and the same, timeless, unchanging message comes through. In some cases it can be almost as much a cliché as the familiar ego. Remember how Cayce encouraged us to learn from nature? Each piece of nature serves its creator's purpose by being itself. We serve the creator's purpose, and thus render our greatest service, by knowing and sharing who we really are. No one else can be you the way you can. To express that spirit in your individual way is your purpose for being here. God intends for the world to have your expression. Use your intuition to know your soul's identity, your heart's true desire, and let it be. Know that finding a way to express yourself in service to the world is what you really want. It's the ultimate purpose and the blessing of channeling your higher self. Know that finding a way to express yourself in service to the world is what you really want. What is your service to the world?